Good evening and welcome to the Snap UK podcast, your one-stop shop for all the news, views and opinions you need on the NFL from this side of the pond. This evening we're at the doghouse and with me I have Gary returning from whichever horrible illness we bestowed upon him. Say hello.
Hello.
And John, dressed like Dave Lee Travis this evening because his eyes are puffy from hay fever. Say hello.
Hello.
Conspicuous by their absence, Jim, who is sunning himself at some festival of marketing
It's
and
basically
technology.
lots of people walking around going, "I'm wonderful."
Yeah.
I imagine
With a martini.
the cocaine budget must be absolutely insane at this place.
Just for Jim.
I don't want to cast aspersions, but yes.
I've seen Jim's Instagram, and I suspect he's filling that baby this week with pictures of people's booties on the beach.
I think he's filling his wank bank for a long time.
Absolutely. I'm glad we've got that in there nicely. Also, not with us this evening, Paul. Now, last week, Paul griped that whenever he's off, we bestow upon him some fake, horrendous illness. And yet this week, he's genuinely off with a fairly scabby-looking illness.
It's horrible.
He's got some sort of infection in his leg, which I assume is running all the way up to his cock.
Yes.
I think it probably started with his cock.
Yeah, well, it could have done.
I'm
He's
going
got
to
an
call it
infection.
cockpox.
He's got cockpox, and it's worked its way down his legs, so he's not here. So yeah, there's just the three of us.
I mean, at least it sounds new, so that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure you want to
Gary
get
had
excited.
AIDS last year, and that's really boring now.
Yeah, that's so 80s.
Yeah.
So just the three of us, and we're going to wing it because between the three of us, we did not manage to coordinate any sort of running order or script.
Well, you're busy. I'm blind. Gary don't care for the stuff that's happened in the past anyway. So
That's very true. So we'll start with very recent news from today. Deshaun Watson has settled 20 out of 24 outstanding suits against him. Not the original complainant. She has not settled. The lady's name escapes me. I apologise.
Ashley Solis.
Yes, Ashley Solis. There has been no disclosure of the financial terms of these agreements, and it has been said that there will be no discussion about it from this point. However, the remaining 4 claimants are pursuing legal action. What does this say about the position these people find themselves in? I don't believe that 20 people went into this thinking, I can make money. But I do believe that 20 people could have looked at this and thought, you know what, I'm going to be very poor by the time I fought this because he can afford all the lawyers. So I might as well take what I can get and try and erase this from my memory. Because take it from me, lawyers are extremely expensive.
Yeah, they are. Look, I think we all thought this was going to get settled eventually, because that's what happens with these things. And when you just give somebody $230 million, then you can make things go away. And it was going to have to go away. And if it's cost him a bit more money than he wanted to spend, then I think he's okay, isn't he? You know, obviously he's not going to have loads of endorsements, I wouldn't have thought, right now. But
Not for
with the amount of money the Browns have paid him, you know, he doesn't really need it. So I think, you know, it's good for everybody that it will be, you know, there will be closure because, you know, it's otherwise for everybody involved, it's just going to go on and on and on and on, isn't it?
Yeah, there are literally no winners from this, and yeah, because it's gone to in front of judges about criminal charges. It's not going to happen, so you do get the feeling that it's got to a point where like they might as well take a deal and move on. But yeah, it's Ashley that is one of the ones that has not taken the deal. Will continue, and you know, all power to her. And
These 4 will just get paid more money.
But yeah,
You know, specifics aside, when I went into the legal case I had to defend, the very first meeting I had with my solicitor, she said, people's pride costs them more than anything else. And if you're just here because you want to defend yourself, it's just going to make you poor. And she could not have been more right. For 4 years, it cost me approximately £40,000 in legal fees. And I can only imagine the mountain of crap these people have got to wade through at their own expense in order to bring any sort of case.
Especially in public as well.
In public. So I can't fault these people, but I'd be interested to see if just one of them stands their ground and makes the things come through court. Because I was down with that. I was prepared to pay whatever in order to just get it said out loud in a court, because then that proved that I was not in the wrong. But it's whether or not you want that. I wasn't doing it in public, is my point. Like, it's whether or not you want that out there for everyone. Because people will judge, regardless. Like, some people have said, oh, these girls are just working in massage parlours, so, they should expect it. Which is disgraceful. It's like, you can't judge that. You don't know those people. So, I can hear Jim, if he was here, already telling me or indicating I should get off my high horse again, because I've done this. But so let's look at it from the other point. If you're a Browns fan, at what point do you put this to one side and think, we're going to win a serious amount of games if he plays this season?
I think about half an hour ago.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Because
have you ever witnessed the dog pound?
I'm sorry? Oh, I thought it was a film of yours. No. No, I've not. I know what you're talking about. Yes, the fans, yeah.
But, like, they're sports fans, aren't they? They're not political commentators. And we see it in so many different sports. You can, people do, for the love of their team, separate sport from morality. Ryan Giggs, for example, allegedly, is a bellend. But Man United fans will still love him, won't they?
Yeah.
So, I think almost instantly. If not right now, the moment he delivers on the field.
That's it.
And, excites them for the money they've paid to go and watch.
I can only put myself similarly that, I had for years have been saying I can't stand the fact that the World Cup's in Qatar. Like, countless people have died preparing this. Yet I know November the 18th, when the World Cup kicks off, I will be like, fuck yeah, it's the World Cup, because stuff just gets forgotten and you get caught up in the moment. And if I was a Browns fan, the first time that he scores a touchdown against the Steelers, your biggest rivals, you're going to go, this trade was now worth it.
Yep.
It's like when John had a go at me about the Saudi money flying into Newcastle, and I just told him to fuck off because I didn't care.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's...
like you say, the split.
Live Golf is the same. They interviewed loads of fans at the US Open this week, and every single one of them just went, I think it's good for competition. I think the PGA just need to grow up. You can't, because there's so much hypocritical stuff, because, with all these different things, people have endorsements, people take money, people want this, they want that. Same with businesses. So it's never black and white.
We should do a morality podcast. I'd love to do that.
I'd love to do that.
I'm well on board. I suspect you and I can put a fence up in the middle.
Yes.
I think John might be sitting on it.
No. I think you'll find John and I fall on very different sides of most morality-based fences. You want to talk about the strikes today, John? No, let's not do that.
No. But good for them.
Yeah, fair enough. Right. Other big news. That
good for them. Fuck everyone else. Yeah.
Like I say, save it. So, other big news that dropped today. Gronk has announced his retirement. He will not be returning for another season with the Bucks. Now, I'm surprised. I thought he might ride it one more, but what has he got to prove? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
He was only good for part of the season last year, and
he's in decline.
Only got paid because Brady made sure he got paid, and different head coach. I think he's, like you say, he's proved everything he wanted to prove. He's won it somewhere else without Belichick, and all that kind of stuff. But he wants to party, doesn't he? And he was pretty battered before he came back for a year. So he's earned enough money.
This has got week 8 comeback written all over it, if you ask me.
Playoff comeback. Yeah. Playoff comeback. Yeah, that's what I thought. Because there was one season in New England where he'd said about, that's it. I think it was the season he retired, and then they were saying, he'll come back for the playoffs. Well, in the end, he signed with Tampa. But, yeah, it was always on the cards that if I'm not going to get beaten up for 17 games, I can just play the playoffs. What a weapon to have.
Well, that's it. If you've got a are rusty still, but it doesn't matter. That
did he have a whole year off?
Yes,
he did have a whole year off. That's the thing. He had a whole year off before he came back to play, and he's played 2 years, hasn't he?
He had a whole year off and came back. And it was the COVID year, so he didn't really have much practice, and he looked really rusty that year.
The point is, how old is Gronk now? 32?
33.
That's not young for a tight end.
No.
That's not a surprise to see a tight end retire at that age.
Nah. And
not one who's had persistent back problems as well.
Exactly.
It's your back. That's always a concern.
I don't think you will see him again.
No, maybe not. 4 Super Bowl rings, 3 with the Patriots, 1 with the Bucks. I mean, that puts him up there as one of the greatest tight ends ever. Receiving record for the most touchdowns by a tight end as well, I think was 17.
Yeah.
And he was drafted in 2010. Like you say, not many last this long. So while we're talking about longevity of tight ends, have you seen Mercedes Lewis has said he intends to break the record for the most seasons played by a tight end? Now, I didn't even realise Mercedes Lewis was still an active player.
Packers, isn't he?
I thought it was the Packers. But apparently...
He was at the Jags for a long time, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, he was at the Jags for quite a while, yeah. So apparently he wants to break the record. So he needs to play this year and next year to break the record. The point is, he's a very old school tight end who's just there as blocking and catches like 1 touchdown a year. But that position seems to have disappeared a little bit. It's all about what your attacking prowess is now as a tight end, and yet he's still making a career out of being predominantly a blocker.
There is a couple. There's Selleck as well, who played for us and then moved, and he was basically a blocking tight end. So you do get a couple though.
It's become old-fashioned, like fullbacks.
It is old-fashioned, but it doesn't cost you a lot of money to have them there.
He started 17 games last season.
Yeah.
Started 15 the year before.
For the Packers.
Packers.
And that's the thing. He's so understated. But he's been around for as long as I've been watching the game.
If you can have a twin tight end for them, you've got Tonyan one end, him on the other, 1 to block, 1 to catch.
It's a massive package.
It's a massive package. And he's 38 years old. He wants to continue till he's 40.
The Brady of tight end positions.
Except without the rings.
Well, yeah, absolutely, there is that. Elsewhere in the NFL, Terry McLaurin continues to hold out from Washington Commanders camp because he wants a longer contract. Now, I find myself asking, why does he want a longer contract with them? Because if he hits the open market, man, he's getting paid. So why would you want to stay there? Carson Wentz is going to suck. The team is terrible. We can go on to Dan Schneider in a minute. Why would you want an extension there? Like, I know the whole point is to protect yourself against injury because you're going to have to play. Just sit out. Just sit out the season. And then you're done and you can go and play for anyone you like.
You can't if you sit out.
You can't. Look at Bell.
You don't burn a year, do you?
No, you don't. You're right.
So then they have control. That is the... Like, I'm sure these rookie contracts, with the power now in college, the fact they can earn money...
Yeah. They'll have to change.
They're going to have to change them soon because otherwise people are going to stay in college longer.
Which should result in better players, by the way.
It should do, but it's definitely going to be an interesting dynamic to watch. But yeah, I agree. I think just turn up this year, and then you've got the power, haven't you?
Imagine what the Commanders could get if they gave him a contract extension and then traded him. So give him an extension, so he's happy. He's got a contract that he feels has got some value to it. But agree to trade him as long as you get a first-round pick for him. Somebody would give you a first-round pick for Terry McLaurin.
They would.
What is the point of him being on that team? If you see anything
you might as well trade him and let them do the extension.
But he's not worth so much without a big contract. So what makes them think that Carson Wentz is going to be able to pick him out any better than Tyler Heineke could?
Well, the thing we keep going on about the Commanders in a way because the team doesn't suck enough for them to tank. And in that division, you've always got a chance of a wild card.
So the team is bad enough. It's just the division's also poor.
Yes.
In a different division, they could easily tank.
No, I don't think they can. Like, the defence is sneakily good.
It was 2 years ago. It wasn't last year.
It got better, but...
Yeah, like...
No, it was better the year before. Last year, it should have improved. And last year, it wasn't that good.
Last year, they had a lot. They had injury issues, whatever else. The problem is the offense, and it's the guy under centre throwing it to Terry McLaurin. But yeah, if I was Terry McLaurin, I'd be thinking, I want to be out. You look at AJ Brown moving and you think that should have been me.
He is better than either. Was it AJ Brown and Marquise Brown both moved? And he's better than both of those players.
Yeah,
I don't know. He's better than AJ Brown.
I think he's better than AJ Brown.
I'm not convinced by that one.
You can throw that one up.
He's
in
better
there
than Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown. I think he's on a level. Might be on a level with AJ Brown. I do think AJ Brown's pretty spectacular on his day.
Yeah.
Well, I just don't see why you'd want to be there, and I'm sure that sucks if you're a Washington fan, but that's just the way it is. Talking of the Commanders, Dan Snyder has twice now been asked to testify in front of Congress regarding the culture, effectively, in the sport.
And they haven't even moved on to his money laundering yet, have they?
And he's told them he's basically got an unavoidable meeting that he's going to have to fly to that wasn't scheduled till after they announced the dates.
The Cayman Islands.
Yeah. And it's like the dates were announced for the hearing, and then he suddenly had a business meeting to go to. No one is surprised, surely, that he's not going to be attending, because he can't possibly have anything good to say.
No,
if he's honest.
I mean, if he has anything good to say, then he's going to be found guilty of perjury.
Well, that's my point.
So
Nothing will change in the NFL, and this is the same with back to the first story, the Deshaun Watson story. Nothing will change until people on the inside want to make changes. They want to hang people out to dry for the things they've done wrong. You can tell me that all these suits have been settled, or that Dan Snyder doesn't feel like testifying, and at no point do I think he or Deshaun Watson aren't guilty of the things they've been accused of doing, because I have eyes. And that's the point. Like, the NFL kind of just lets people get away with these things because it's an old boys club and everyone's got money. And until you start affecting people's money and you're affecting people's press coverage, and even then, we've seen he's taken money off of other teams, and you can't persuade me that he hasn't done that. And Deshaun Watson has dragged the league down, and neither of those things has been enough for positive action from the inside. It's very strange. Yeah. I just don't understand. What is it they've all got over Goodell? And then he goes on and gets another contract and makes the NFL more money.
It's all about money.
It is all about money. And it's because at the moment it's not affecting the bottom line, it's not going to force Goodell out of his shell. He's not going to. His head isn't going to emerge from the sand because of this, which is, and it's wrong. But his job is to make money for those 32
stakeholders in the NFL.
He's not there to be. We keep mentioning the moral arbiter. He isn't that. He's the moneymaker.
So who is? Because it doesn't feel like there is one. I think it might be me.
I think he is supposed to be that as well, because he's supposed to protect the reputation of the brand, isn't he? So I don't think you can, keep making money forever if you allow your brand to disappear. So I think it's trying to understand whether which things are brand damaging enough where he has to take action. I don't think it's a proactive approach, but it's more of a case of, is this going to hurt the brand irreparably if I do nothing? So rather than how are we going to lead on this, it's very much we need to make that go away, or we need to show some positive, kind of messaging around that, and then they act. It's not, I want to make a difference about this. It's not what comes into his mind, is it?
No, it's certainly not.
Well, on Washington, do you mention Jack Del Rio, who had to apologise for comparing the January 6th Capitol Hill insurrection to the Black Lives Matter protest, and had to apologise to the players in his team
and delete his Twitter and
fined $100,000.
I liked Jack Del Rio as a head coach, and I thought he was hard done by when he was at the Raiders. But he's clearly a dick.
He's clearly fucking stupid.
So, I mean, fair enough. He seems to have got away with it though.
I'd love to have been at that team meeting.
That's a disaster. This is the problem when you've got old white guys and young people of any background that you can choose to pick on, accidentally or otherwise. You're going to put your foot in it from time to time. And I wonder how that goes down. And this is, again, it comes back to Watson. At what point do the players on the Browns go, this guy in charge? Really? Like, I don't get it. Surely they get some say.
Well, they must, but I think the thing that's going to probably matter is he's going to make us a better team. We're going to make more money. You know, we can't judge as much, you know, as you know, Brits looking at the NFL, because I mean, John Terry had a great career after fucking his teammate's ex-partner, you know, whilst a married man. So
didn't Ryan Giggs smash his brother's wife?
He did.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. Be careful with that, because he's also he's I think his trial starts this week for
smashing somebody else,
smashing his girlfriend. So
it's not what he did; it's the words I've used to describe it that you didn't like.
No, I don't like. I think.
Well, you don't mean to be beaten up by Ryan Giggs.
I think we should just not mention it.
The point is, sports people with lots of money sometimes are very nice people, and sometimes they're not.
Because it's all walks of life. Did anyone see what the Browns have done in a positive move this week, though?
Did they?
I didn't see that they'd closed the franchise. No, that they'd let the Niners have Myles Garrett. Anything else?
Go on. You've got nothing of it.
Did they shoot Big Ben?
No. The Cleveland Browns.
They've hired a new
general
executive
manager of football operations, Catherine. I'm going to say Raiche, but I could be wrong. Raiche.
Raiche.
I'm going with Raiche.
33-year-old.
Now that made me feel terrible, because at 33 I was barely in charge of tying my own shoelaces up, and this lady has been vice president of football with the Eagles and now is general assistant manager of the Browns. She's also worked in Canada for the Alouettes and somebody else, I forget. The Argonauts. So
can she make teeth?
No, she probably can't.
You win there.
So, I mean, that's great. Okay, fantastic. That's, by the sounds of things, the right person for the right role. It feels very sordid when it comes from the Browns. It feels a bit like...
It feels affirmative action, which is a shame, because it shouldn't. But you shouldn't be putting those two together. But because of the
I hope she has a chaperone for any meetings with Deshaun Watson. Am I allowed to say that, John?
Probably not.
Just don't look at your Instagram messages.
No. Whatever you do, don't look at your messages. Right. Let's talk safeties. Minkah Fitzpatrick is now the richest safety the NFL has seen. The Steelers have given him a massive new contract. One of you two is going to tell me what his massive new contract is, because I don't have it in front of me. There is no doubt that Minkah Fitzpatrick is a really big impact player on that defence. But are safeties worth the amount of money that's now being thrown?
4 years, $73.5 million contract with 36 guaranteed.
See, that strikes me as a lot of money for a player that doesn't often positively impact the game.
It's certain players. I think he's like a hybrid safety. He can, he can play like a corner. If anyone was going to make the money, it was going to be him. He had a quieter year last year, but the year before, he's had two. Especially when he first joined, it seemed like he had a sort of like a Tavon Diggs style year. He just kept intercepting. Yes. You can tell as well by the way Tomlin talks about him. He absolutely adores him.
So last year he had his best year.
There you go.
So he had 84 solo tackles last year and 40 assisted. He only had 2 interceptions. The previous year he had 4 interceptions. But he did have a very good year and in a very good defense. I think safeties are a bit underrated sometimes.
Yeah.
Because, how many times does that, 3rd and 7 that you don't get because the safety makes the tackle stop a touchdown? It might stop it on the, at halfway rather than on the goal line. But it either it stops that, it holds people to field goal. It's not about, it's really fun to watch the quarterback get sacked. We all love it. But that doesn't always stop every drive.
And as well, a lot of them are, you look at the best ones, Matthew and the Chiefs one. You look at Fitzpatrick and...
Eric Berry. Is that who you meant?
When the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, it was Matthew.
Yeah, you said... Oh, sorry, when the Chiefs won. I thought you meant and the Chiefs have got another one. Right,
Oh,
sorry,
yeah.
right, I'm with
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
But like they are the leaders of the defense.
Yes.
They are the quarterback for the defense as well. They you've got the middle linebacker generally as the sort of the Mike position. You've got the safety leading the secondary. I think when you have a brilliant one, and actually I think as I mentioned a few weeks ago, my favourite defensive players of the last 20 years are generally safeties.
So this was where I was going with this particular point. Is do you think it's possible that the top sort of 5-6 safeties are so much better than the next tier down?
Well, if you think about the top ones, you've got like Justin Simmons,
Yeah.
Harrison Smith,
Yeah.
Marcus Williams,
Derwin James.
and then you start get to Jesse Bates. And then you start
You get
going
to Jamal Adams.
and then Matthew, and then you're like, whoa.
But is Jamal Adams all that? He was 2 first-round picks, and I don't think he's been all that.
And then you start going Buda Baker, and you go, would I pay Buda Baker $70 million? No.
I do like Buda Baker, but I think he is the next level
Jimmy
down.
Ward from the Niners, very good player, but you wouldn't pay him that sort of money.
That's
very
what
good.
I mean. Justin Reed, for instance, was a...
Devin McCoy.
Yeah, and no, again, they're not getting them that sort of money. And I think there's a massive drop-off between Tier 1 and Tier 2. See, I think Derwin James is a brilliant player. He's just not always fit.
Yeah.
He's the best safety for me when he's
If
on
he's
the field.
fit.
If he's fit, he's...
I think the top probably 5 or 6 are worth paying. Maybe not quite this much. They've probably overpaid by about, 18 million, something like that. Should have been about 55. So he's clearly got a good agent. And they're not paying a quarterback a lot of money at the moment. So it's the time to try and negotiate, isn't it?
So there was Kevin Byard didn't get a mention just then, but he's a brilliant safety. But he plays on the Tetons, and maybe he doesn't get enough respect because of the team he plays on. This is a bit like so for years Revis was seen as the best cornerback. So pre-Sherman it was Revis, right? But Revis got loads of money, and everyone thought, is he worth that money? Because he plays on the Jets. And like the Jets had 2 good years where they made the AFC Championship, and then nothing. He went and played for the Bucks for a shed load of money, and they were terrible.
Yeah.
And so on his day, Revis was the best player in the game. It's just he was always on terrible teams, and I sometimes think some of these safeties make their numbers because they're on bad teams. And so maybe I don't give them the recognition they deserve because they're not contributing to a winning team.
Same for all of them, though, isn't it? Same for almost every position, because you either spend too much time on the field or you're in the wrong position on the field when you're playing. LaShawn McCoy was one of the best running backs of the last decade.
Yeah.
And, he got paid, but people don't remember him because he won nothing.
Yeah.
That's what being at Buffalo will do for you.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
When you think of great running backs, nobody even thinks about him.
No, and he was
But
brilliant.
he was amazing.
And at the Eagles, he was brilliant.
Yeah, I was trying to think of examples. I was thinking of the running back who was at... he's
going really well.
He's one of the guys that's gone over 2,000 yards. Like
CJ2K?
No. I can't remember his name, but yeah, he was brilliant. Brilliant.
Who did he play for, John?
He finished with the Titans. I've forgotten his. But yeah, it's bad. It's a bad example. But because he never won anything, he's never going to be remembered. But you look at Justin Simmons. Like the Broncos paid him, and effectively didn't pay Von Miller. Like that's how much they value him. Like that's massive.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
like I say, the best 5 or 6 are a tier above for me, and he's definitely in that
DeMarco
category.
Murray.
Oh, DeMarco Murray. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Like you say, no one remembers him. Not even you.
Not even me.
Fair enough. You were saying to me before we came on about the other Fitzmagic.
Yes.
Where we're going to see my favourite quarterback this year.
So anyone who's got Amazon Prime in the UK will be able to watch both Fitzmagic and Sherman as they're signed up for the Thursday Night Football.
That sounds fucking horrific.
Sounds absolutely fucking brilliant. I hope that they just let Fitzmagic be himself. topless, screaming, whatever else. But no, I think he's great. 2 great signings.
Well, I saw an interview with Richard Sherman once. It was through one of them doorbell videos, so maybe it wasn't his best reel. But how was that prick ended up with that gig?
Because he speaks to a certain culture and generation, and that they're the people that are watching. So that's what he speaks for. So, and it's the same with Fitz. Fitz appeals to a certain culture and generation, and those two together. Don't forget, these are 2 of those highly educated players who have ever played in the NFL. So they not only speak at one level, they can encompass several different groups of people, and that's what draws audiences. I don't like particularly the Manning cast. It has its funny moments, but I've tried watching just the Manning cast, and it's hard work.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how it would work for me.
Peyton's Places is good, though.
Peyton's Places is brilliant. The problem with the Manning cast is Eli. The problem with the Mannings has always been Eli.
Did you see him? I saw some picture of him. Someone bumped into him somewhere, and he looked like a right fucking muppet. He just looked like some really bad, just like could have been any random Gormless dad in America. It's just
that is what Eli looks like.
Yeah, that is true. Now, speaking of Manning, there we're going to have a quick break, and then we're going to come back and debate who was better, Peyton or Drew Brees. So it's time to talk about Drew Brees and Peyton Manning, and why apparently I think you're wrong for thinking Peyton Manning is better than Drew Brees. I don't recall stating this as fact, but I'm going to go with it because I think it's an interesting topic for debate. We're now reaching a point where we can differentiate between greatest and best. We've had this conversation before. The greatest or most decorated quarterback of all time is not up for debate. You cannot. It's just not. And then in that category with Brady, you've got Joe Montana, because he's also phenomenally decorated as a quarterback. If you simply wanted to take that as your yardstick, you also have to throw in Terry Bradshaw, but we might just leave him to one side.
I think most people would acknowledge that Joe Montana and Tom Brady are
in the greatest
quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah.
Throughout Brady's career, he was constantly compared to Peyton Manning. Peyton started 2 years before Brady. They played in the AFC, and they met how many times in AFC playoffs? 8 or 9 times in the playoffs. Yeah. Brady had won 6-3, I think. What doesn't get mentioned as much is the fact that at the same time these two were slugging it out regularly in the AFC, tucked away in the NFC for the majority of the time was Drew Brees, racking up stats, which, again, not always the best way to judge somebody, but certainly racking up stats, racking up wins, and dealing with what had been one of the worst franchises in NFL history and dragging them from mediocrity into consistent relevance. Yes, he had a great head coach for much of that time.
All of that time
with Sean Payton, much like Brady had with Belichick. And yes, you have to recognise that Peyton won games under several different head coaches. But I'm always surprised that Brees doesn't get more of a mention. It's like we've decided to cap the number at 2. There can only be 2 great quarterbacks at any one time. And I just don't think it's true. Drew Brees, for me, was every bit as good as Peyton Manning and should therefore be counted as one of the great outliers who was able to contend with Brady during his greatness. Debate.
I've got no problem talking about the greatness of Drew Brees as a quarterback because the stats do not lie there. I mean, stats can mislead, but Drew Brees led a good Saints team for I can't think how long he was there. Like, it feels like forever, but
13 years.
13 years.
14 years.
Oh,
there you
14 years, sorry.
I've got no issue. Drew Brees is a wonderful quarterback. I just personally believe that there is a reason why that Brady and Manning are just in that echelon above.
Go on.
I just think, on the eye, you could if I was running an offense and I had 2 minutes left, I would want the ball in the hands of Peyton Manning or Tom Brady. Drew Brees, I think, is brilliant. I'd be very happy with him. But I had to pick one or two. They're the two I want. I think Manning runs an offense on his own. He is your offensive coordinator at quarterback. Like his mind, the way he leads, I think, is just something we'll never see again. Especially now with Brady on his way out, he's very similar. Do
you want some stats?
No, but yeah, go on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So longevity. Drew Brees played longer than Peyton.
Yeah.
287 games versus 266. Yeah. Wins. Who do you reckon had more wins?
Brees.
Peyton.
Oh, there you go.
186 to 172. And obviously Peyton had a quite poor first season as
Yes.
well. So Peyton's win record was 700. Finished his career 700. Drew Brees 600. Passing yards, passing touchdowns, because Brees played longer. He obviously finished higher.
He did play 2 years longer, but had fewer interceptions, I will point out.
Yeah, well, Peyton had a lot at the
In
start.
that first season.
A lot at the start and at the end.
Yes, both ends. Yeah.
And he only had eight less.
Yep.
So it was pretty close. Touchdowns, it was only 30 different in the 2 extra years that Brees played. So I think what Drew Brees was the ultimate professional quarterback who would do what he could do over and over and over again. So you could build a perfect game plan, very similar to Brady, but just not quite as successful in terms of they understood his ability and the team they put around him. You know, we know for the last 5 years of his career, his pass completion rate went up year after year, every year, as he threw slightly shorter balls all the time to Kamara, Thomas. I think Peyton, when you look at some of the other kind of more important stats in terms of greatness and how they've been seen by the wider community, Peyton was a 4-time MVP. Drew Brees was never an MVP. So nobody, not 1 year, even the year they won the Super Bowl, thought Drew Brees has been the best player in the league this season. And Peyton was the first player to win 2 Super Bowls, one with two different teams. I think Brees had a very emotional Super Bowl win because of what it meant to the city. But does that make him a better player than Peyton? I think that's a bit of a stretch. An excellent quarterback, but I think Brady and Peyton are 2 greats of the game.
And that's what it is. I think Brees is. It feels wrong to slight him, but Brees is just the 3rd best quarterback I've seen in what play.
He's not though, is he? He's not, because Aaron Rodgers has the same number of Super Bowls as Drew Brees, and you would say Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Drew Brees.
There you go. Probably 4th. And it's not a slight.
So here's the thing then. I absolutely agree with what you've just said. What I don't agree with is how you've ranked it. I think my point at the start was Brady is up here with Montana, and then you've got Manning, Rodgers, and Brees, if you want to bring Rodgers in the next category. I don't think Manning's up there with Brady anymore.
I think Peyton did some stuff that doesn't get him up there with Brady. Don't get me wrong. I don't know if Montana's even up there with Brady anymore.
Nah.
You know,
different era. That's the problem.
It's a different era, and there's a gap between Brady and Peyton, but there's definitely then another gap from Peyton because he achieved things that had never been achieved before. And you know, when you go back to that kind of the early years when he got to the Broncos, when he first got to the Broncos, and he was thrown to the the Julius Thomas, Demaryius Thomas. It was ridiculous what he was doing.
39, 59, 39, 55, 37, and then the
drop off.
Yeah.
But he was ridiculous. And the Colts weren't amazing when he got there either.
No,
let's just remember that.
They only won 2 games.
Exactly. So the Colts weren't amazing. Manning was a first overall pick. Drew Brees was a second round pick, and that's why I think. So yeah, I'm not saying he's achieved as much as Brady, but he also got to 4 Super Bowls, and Brees only got to 1.
100% record.
It was a 100% record, but you've still got to put because the Super Bowls we've seen over the last few years doesn't necessarily come back to the quarterback winning it. So actually, what you're saying is Peyton Manning put his team in a position to win a Super Bowl 4 times.
Well, I could have won the last Super Bowl that he won.
Well, but it still happened, didn't it?
I mean, if you're saying if that's how you're lining it up, he wasn't great in all of those Super Bowls. In fact, in the last,
but he had more playoff wins.
Yes, he did.
He had more playoff wins. So, yeah, for me, there was a lot of stats that they are quite close to because they both played at a high level for a long time. But there are a few stats that just separate Peyton out. Some really key ones.
I think if you're doing it on stats, it's almost, apart from the MVP one, I think they're so similar. And Brees left San Diego because
they were shit.
They drafted Philip Rivers.
They drafted Philip Rivers. He had a shoulder injury.
Yep.
And they didn't want to pay him big money after his shoulder injury, so he went to New Orleans.
Where was he supposed to go before he went to New Orleans?
I can't remember.
He was supposed to go to the Dolphins, and he failed the medical, and they turned him down, and then ended up in quarterback purgatory for the next 10 years.
But yeah,
it is mad when you.
But then you've got the thing that Manning was injured at the Colts.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's another thing.
The similarities between the two are stark. It's purely, I say Manning is better purely on the eye because I just used to love watching him under centre, and you just see what we mentioned the Manning cast in the first half. I love him explaining the calls.
Mentally, he
is your offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
and literally, it's something where it's leaving the game. You aren't going to get Peyton Mannings and the Tom Brady's again because it's micromanaged from the side. And I think it's sad to see in a way, but yeah, sorry, go.
Well, so Brees went to the playoffs 10 times. Peyton went 15 times. Mm-hmm. Brees only actually ever won 9 playoff games, including the Super Bowl run.
Yeah.
So, I think there was opportunity to go
the Saints
to do more.
They were some terrible teams. Don't forget how bad some of those Saints defenses were. We have openly mocked them over the years of doing this. And Peyton rarely played on a team that bad. Rarely.
No. I always feel... No, he didn't play on a team that bad. He did come up against a dynasty.
Yeah.
He was directly against... Brees has come up against a decent Packers team. The Giants when they were on a run. He's never come up...
The Niners a couple of times. The Ravens a couple of times.
These aren't brilliant teams. Whereas...
Yeah, what would have Peyton done if he wasn't playing Brady in the AFC Championship game?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think
times
as well. I was trying not to mention Brady as much, but I think the Brady element in the AFC, I think, does cost Manning more playoff games than I think you would get the other way around.
Well, yeah, because it was something like 10 out of 11 years. It was either Brady, Manning, or Roethlisberger went from the AFC into the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Absolutely, I'm not disagreeing with any of the things you say. Other than I think Brady's on his own, and I think Brees is therefore so much closer to Manning.
But who is the better player
out of Brees and Manning?
Yeah,
well, that's my point. I think it's like a card's width in between. I don't.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
See, John's saying on the eye he preferred Manning. On the eye, throwing the ball, I preferred Brees.
See, I think there's a bigger gap than you would say, because the last 4 or 5 years, Drew Brees was not really a factor.
He wasn't asked to be a factor. Their team,
but he wasn't a factor, was he?
That's it. Well, when he started, he didn't have the massive
drop off and leave
that Manning had. But he had on the sideline, he did have Sean Peyton, who was able to build teams.
Yeah, Kamara,
around
Thomas, Ingram. All the pressure was taken off Brees a lot of the time. I absolutely agree with you.
On a third and long, he'd bring in Taysom Hill.
There is no way then, if you want to do that you can discount the fact that Brock Osweiler got the Broncos to the playoffs and Manning was thrown in for the win.
The defense got them to the
playoffs. Whatever. Okay, the quarterback under center when they got. I mean, don't forget when Manning was injured and missed loads of games, he had thrown the league-leading interceptions and he'd only thrown like 6 touchdowns or something.
It's always nice to bookend a career.
Absolutely. Look, and looking just at the two ends of Peyton's career is not fair either. That's not really my point. I'm just saying, yes, Brees' career was managed at the end, and Brady's disappeared off a cliff Manning's disappeared off a cliff much quicker than that team could realistically manage. But he won one of his 2 Super Bowl rings on the back of the best defense some of us had seen in a long time.
The stats were closer than I expected them to be.
Okay.
So I will give you that.
I mean, wasn't Brees' Super Bowl win against Manning? Didn't they beat the Colts?
I do not remember. Yeah, they might have done. I'd have to look that up.
I think they beat the Colts.
That is actually before my time watching. Was that 2009?
Griff will love that if that's right.
I genuinely, I don't know.
2009. They...
silence on a podcast is always good.
Yes, because it was either the Colts or the Jets.
Oh, yeah.
So...
was that one of the Reavers years I was talking about where they made the AFC Championship game?
So, 31-17. But, of course, you remember where the Colts took control? It was from a special teams.
Onside
special
kick.
Teams.
Yeah, the Saints took control.
Yes, Saints
they kicked off the second half, didn't they?
Onside kick. Yeah.
So, I mean, now we're talking head-to-head, which they didn't have a lot of, and Brees is suddenly winning. I feel like I can concede the fact that Manning was brilliant, but I still feel Brees is so much closer. My whole point all the way from right back when was that he's so much closer than he's given credit for.
That I will go with, because
I will also happily put Rodgers into second behind Brady.
Yeah.
Because having watched him, and you're talking about eye test, he's better than Manning. Just on the eye. He doesn't run the game the same way. It's a completely different sort of game. And you know, there's a quarterback here that we're not mentioning because things have gone badly recently. But for 4 or 5 years, in the same breath as these guys, was Russell Wilson. He was talked about the same. He's going to have this and that, and they won a Super Bowl. And
well, I think we need to see.
Yeah.
Because
well, now he's moved.
Peyton was like 18 years or 15. I think he was 15 years. Brees was 17 years. So what's Russell Wilson at, 8 or 9?
2011 he was drafted.
Okay, so 11 years. Yeah. So we need to see how the next 6 years pan out, I suppose.
His dynasty is not over if he wants to do a run with the Broncos. It's just he was mentioned for a long time.
If you're going to take a Super Bowl win away from Peyton because of his defense, the Legion of Boom won that game. I mean, against Manning, but it was because the Broncos around him capitulated.
Yes,
it wasn't. The line just collapsed. It was
similar to
the Chiefs against the Bucks. Like some days it's just defense and the offense doesn't turn up. You can have the best quarterback, but
this is what makes these debates so fascinating, is because trying to separate the quarterback from the team and the opposition is really hard. And this is why I feel Brees deserves more respect. I know as well some people like to put him down for things he's said and done that maybe don't exactly.
I decided not to bring his religious mumbo-jumbo into it.
I'm not putting character into this.
Because otherwise Peyton is much funnier.
I believe some people do. Peyton is one of the funniest, and I really appreciate it. And the fact that Brady and Manning have a similar sense of humour and sort of bounced off each other a bit, I think made them a duo, and Brees wasn't able to join in with that.
Yeah.
It's like Aaron Rodgers. He isn't really able to chime.
And Rodgers, he does some amazing things, but I am getting very frustrated with his gun shyness nowadays.
Yeah.
Just can't pull that trigger. So worried about his numbers.
Yeah, it seems to be. See, the most entertaining quarterback was Brett Favre, who didn't give a monkeys about what his interception ratio looked like as long as he was winning games. He doesn't get mentioned with the great quarterbacks, but his stats are phenomenal. But he did just launch the ball and hope to see what happened.
Yeah, like as well, we just mentioned the end of Manning's like the last few years of Favre were
Jets and Vikings,
Jets
and
and
it wasn't
Vikings,
pretty,
and it's
yeah.
it's not how the
Sometimes you just need to retire.
yeah.
yeah.
But not to drag too many in, but it's just because, as much as I have loved watching Tom Brady, and I enjoyed the Brady Manning era, I just feel other players just get left in the dark a bit, and Brees deserved a bit more respect.
I'm literally, we're talking about two of the top 5 quarterbacks in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
So, yes, I can understand that. I think possibly as well. Brees has not as
Roethlisberger won 2 Super Bowls.
yeah.
See now, I haven't even thought to bring him into this conversation, other than the fact I knew he went to a lot of AFC games. But was he that good? He had like a 2 or 3 year window where he was really good.
Do you know what? He was a bit inconsistent.
Yeah.
But if you ask me which one I would want to watch out of Brees or Roethlisberger, like the way he boomed a ball, he absolutely launched a ball.
Only for about 3 or 4 years, maybe.
But in those years, he was amazing.
Yeah, he absolutely was. I just don't. I don't.
But he'd throw 2
believe-
interceptions, but 5 touchdowns.
I don't believe Ben Roethlisberger is in the same league as the other quarterbacks.
You think he sat there with Eli?
No, I think he's in the tier above. See, I think I think Eli gets a lot of credit, and on his day he was brilliant, but his days were so far between that I don't even think he should be in this conversation. He's got 2 Super Bowls, and Roethlisberger and Eli are much further down the list. There are quarterbacks who haven't won Super Bowls that I think are better than Roethlisberger and Eli. Roethlisberger has been brilliant for 3 or 4 years. There's no like his numbers are great, but like you've watched him, half of his career has just been a lumbering fat guy.
Yeah, but
Who can still throw a ball.
Yeah.
But yeah, when he was fit and just bigger than everyone else, and like defenses just couldn't get him. He was fun to watch.
Yeah.
And once again, I'm having to not bring up the moral characters.
But Michael Vick was fun to watch. He didn't win very much. Some of his stats are phenomenal, but and to what it was incredible. But I don't know.
Like
that's how I feel about Big Ben.
Yeah, like it's a shame, but the when I used to watch it as a bit younger, Culpepper, Dante Culpepper. I used to love watching.
Yeah.
Once again, really fun to watch, but he's never going to bring up with these lists. But
No.
like fun quarterbacks to watch almost is like a category of its own.
Yes.
And actually, like Brady's got like 1 billion rings.
He's not that much fun, is he?
But he was very clinical.
Yes. Can I bring Ryan Fitzpatrick up? Is it time for him to be mentioned?
But no, he was fun. Jameis Winston is fun.
Yep.
They're not gonna trouble Canton. They're not gonna trouble the playoffs. No. Really.
We should.
But yeah,
we should reel this back into where we started. I feel like I'm happy to concede that I've lost the debate 2-1, but I feel I've managed to shine a light into the place it was supposed to be.
It's fine. I think I think what we need to see with Brees is as well. He's only been retired a year.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning has had 6 years to let his legend grow.
Is
especially
that how long it's been now? Jesus.
I think, yeah, because he's been in Canton a year, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So, and they've had 6 years of the Broncos being shit to help those.
They haven't been to the playoffs since, have they?
No, and let's see, let's see how much the Saints are going to miss. I think that might help build his legacy.
When Peyton retired, this is my final thought on this. When Peyton retired, let's not forget that Brock Osweiler got one of the richest contracts in quarterback history, $72 million, with 37 of that guaranteed, to go and play for the Texans, and played 3/4 of one season. Won a playoff game, by the way, because the Raiders quarterback was injured.
Connor Cook?
Yeah. No, Connor Cook played. It was Derek Carr. That was the year he broke his leg. Beat Connor Cook. And then was traded plus a high draft pick to the Browns to just get rid of his massive salary and disappeared into the ether. I think he had 1 year backing up at the Broncos again. For me, we should do that one day. Quarterback contracts that went wrong. But that is always one of Peyton's legacies for me is the Osweiler year where he was just terrible.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to quarterbacks, I try not to go by win percentages and contracts because they don't really mean a lot. But I think, that'd be a fun one to do.
Right. That's the end of the debate and the end of the show, unless anybody's got anything else to throw in. Well done, everyone, on managing that without a running order. Hurry back, Jim. All is forgotten. Oh, and Paul, get well soon. Or, at least get rid of the scabby pox.
Cockpox.
Cockpox, that's the one. As long as it's not monkey cockpox, because I don't want to know where he got that from. Just saying. Right, that's all from us. Good night.